Hey, well, first live. So this is one, a test, and two, I just wanted to come on and say a few things about Russian travels, Martin and his family. I'm sure everybody's aware of the floods that are happening here in Russia at the moment, and where Martin lives, which is Orenburg, the water is now arrived and is rising. As it stands at the moment, I think it's fair to say that Martin's house is completely flooded. This is a new property they've just recently moved into. His wife and his children. So, you know, without putting too fine a point on it, he's probably lost everything or very close to everything. House obviously being made of brick and tile will presumably still be standing, but everything inside, you can imagine, even the walls, you know, plaster walls are going to crack. It's just going to be pretty unpleasant. So I just wanted to jump on a live and say, hey, look, Martin, people are thinking of you. We all hope for the best for you and your family, and I'd like people to direct themselves to your channel, and hopefully can help you out financially. I know you've got several options. I haven't, unfortunately. I'm new to YouTube, new to live streams, etc, etc, so I don't have those options. But hopefully you do have plenty, and hopefully people can help you out, subscribe, and drop you a few quid. So that was the initial reason for jumping on, but I will jump into some things of my own as well. I've been asked lots of questions, and I thought it was probably about time that I answered some of them. So the first one really is why? Why did I come to Russia? Now, I have touched on this in some of my own videos, briefly, you know, about meeting my wife and coming here on holiday, not really wanting to come to Russia, but, you know, coming here. But more detail and more in depth, I haven't really gone. So we came here for 3 weeks initially, just for a holiday, and whilst we were here, the first week, as I've documented before, was just a blur, just very disorientating. Second week, wanted to be everywhere, look at everything, and part of that second week was actually looking at plots of land, and seeing what options were available, whether, you know, you could buy a piece of land and then just build a house, and how it worked. And we ended up at a local developer's office, and they had plots of land which were on developments. They'd sort of obviously got a large piece of land and divided it up. So we went round to 3 or maybe 4 different areas that they had to have a look at the area, obviously the sizes of the plots, because they all varied, what amenities were available. As many people may or may not know, but in rural Russia you can get a variation on the development itself. You know, has it got mains gas, for example? Has it got mains water? Has it got a tarmac road? All things we kind of take for granted in the UK, and that was new to me. You know, I just assumed that everything came with all of that, but no, you can have a small development and not have a tarmac road. It can be an unmade road, and that's very common in Russia. There are lots and lots of unmade roads, which kind of gives it a backwards country kind of feel almost. But I suppose if you factor in how big the country is, it'll be pretty difficult and B, expensive to tarmac the entire place. So there are a lot of roads that have been there and show up on all of your sat nav as a road, but it literally can be a dirt track. And there are obviously roads that are tarmacked. Generally, the roads are pretty good. There are some roads that, you know, need some work, but I have noticed that they're pretty, especially in my area. And again, I'm only talking about my area, but I have noticed that they're pretty good with repairing the roads, and they're not like the UK. When they do repair them, it's not close the road, traffic lights, you know, shut for a week while a guy fills in a pothole the size of a biscuit tin. They just rock up and common sense prevails. So they don't shut the road, they haven't got traffic lights every time, sometimes, but not every time. But you're expected to use common sense and drive around them. That's what I like about this country, it's common sense for a lot of things. So they do, you know, crack on and repair the roads. But as I said, going slightly off topic there, as I said, we were looking for particular developments. And for us, we wanted something that had tarmac roads, that had mains gas, etc. So we looked at these 3 or 4 developments that fitted that criteria, and we ended up really sort of falling in love with this development that we're on, with a particular piece of land that was here, and just sort of, I don't think we really had a long-term plan. I don't think we really sort of thought, right, let's build this house and move to Russia. I don't think it was really like that. It was more, let's build a house. The beyond that hadn't really factored in too much at that point. Financially, it made sense. They were, I mean, by UK standards, incredibly cheap. I mean, this house I couldn't afford in the UK. You know, this amount of land, I think we've got about 800 square metres at the moment on this particular plot. And the house itself, including the terraces, sits at about 248 square metres. So given the style of house, the size of the house, swimming pool, etc., etc., I probably couldn't have afforded this house in the UK, because it would be in a better area, which then adds to the value. So value for money wise, price wise, it just seemed like a no-brainer. It was like, well, why wouldn't you? So we settled on this particular developer. We liked the choice of houses that they gave you for the plot, and yeah, we paid our money. Now the way it works with what we've done is you purchase the land, and it is on the condition that you are going to build a house, or with the developer you are going to allow the developer to build you a house on that land. So they're not just going to be a land agent. They're not going to buy a big piece of land and then sell you a piece of, you know, a plot for you to do what you like. They're not going to make any money from that. So the whole point is that they build the house. But you do get the choice of a house, you know, what choice, what house you want. So you get basically a catalogue. And the houses range from, I think the smallest one is a 2-bedroom, single story bungalow, about 70 square metres, I think, maybe 65. And they go up to 4-bedroom. Obviously all detached. There's no such thing really here as semi-detached. It's, well, everything's detached. So you kind of pick your house, you decide what you want, and that's kind of the start of it. You then have the option to place that house on your land where you want it, which again is a bit unusual compared to UK standards. UK, you tend to buy the house and it comes with land, and you get what you get. The house is built there, this is your back garden, this is your front garden. You don't get any choice in your orientation of that. But here you do. So you buy your plot of land, that's your land, it's your sovereign territory, and you pick the house that you want, and you say you want your house here, this far back, this left, this right. And that's what we did. We had a look at the neighbour's house, we looked at where their positioning was, and we looked at the other houses on the estate, and we sort of worked out that we wanted to be a bigger back garden than front. So we had our house quite further forward, whereas our neighbour, his house is set further back, so he's got a bigger front garden and a smaller back garden. We just wanted, we knew that we weren't going to live in the front garden, we were going to live in the back garden, you know. We also knew that part of us coming here and buying this was it was going to have a swimming pool. It was always going to have a swimming pool from the beginning. So all of that factored in, we knew we wanted our house at the front of the plot. So whilst we were deciding all of this stuff and, you know, making those decisions, I jokingly said it would be nice if we could guarantee what was next door, you know, house-wise, height-wise, because at the moment we've got lovely views, and without knowing what house is going to be built next door, you might lose that view. Anyhow, as it would happen, we've ended up with all single-storey houses to our left as you look at our property, so we see across all of the roofs, which has worked out perfect. At the same time, obviously, we were then speccing the house, and we have changed everything with this house internally. There isn't anything that's the same. So we have moved all of the walls, we've moved all of the electric points, because you get like a standard house. You know, you pick a 4-bedroom house or a 3-bedroom house or whatever, and it's got a standard layout, what they call standard form. But you don't have to stick to that. You can move it around, and that's what we did. We looked, and our house is actually a 4-bedroom house that we have converted or changed into a 3-bedroom house, because that suited our needs more. There wasn't, I think in the UK, everybody's desperate to have the most bedrooms, regardless of whether you're using them, because of the value. We were thinking not about the value, we were thinking about it being a home that we would enjoy living in. So for us, it didn't make any sense to have 4 bedrooms. So the 3 bedrooms upstairs and the guest bedroom downstairs was a great layout, there's nothing wrong with it, but it didn't suit us. So we kept the guest bedroom downstairs, but the 3 bedrooms upstairs we turned into 2 bedrooms, and that meant that the entire upstairs of the house is just 2 bedrooms. We then decided that both the bedrooms upstairs wanted or needed to be ensuite, so they've both got ensuite, you know, sinks, toilets, showers. So that then led to us altering the staircase, because the staircase was, I think, quite intrusive. It came down a 90-degree angled down into the lounge, but a lot of the stair, it was 50-50, you know, so 50% of the staircase was down in the lounge. And looking beyond that, to me it looked like the lounge was going to be very cramped, and it limited your options for how you orientated the lounge. You know, let's face it, the focal point of a lounge generally is a TV, so your first thought is, where would the TV go? And with this staircase, it really limited where it could go. It was pretty much saying that's where the TV's going. So that I wasn't keen on. But when we moved the bedrooms around, it gave me the opportunity to reduce the size of the upstairs hallway significantly. And me and the wife went backwards and forwards with that, because it seems to be Russian houses have big staircases, big wide staircases. Whereas, as you know, in the UK, most houses have tiny little itty-bitty staircases that you can almost go up sideways. So I was coming from that mentality. For me, a staircase is just a transit from one place to another. You don't spend any time on it other than passing. But for the wife, it was more than that. So, you know, we had several debates about the staircase. But I had this vision that if we did away with the upstairs hall, which we didn't need once we went to 2 bedrooms, we could reduce the size of the staircase in width, which meant we could get even bigger bedrooms. And if we then turned the staircase and turned it 180 degrees, so instead of it coming down into the corner of the lounge and along the lounge wall, or sorry, instead of it coming down into the centre of the house, it then would come down the side of the lounge and then along the lounge wall. So that was the initial thought process. After that, I then went on a obsession with reducing the amount of steps that were coming into the lounge. So we then moved walls to move the staircase. And this is where it got interesting with the architect, because as with anybody that does this sort of thing for a living, they have CAD, and she had CAD, the computer say no. And they just kept saying, you can't do it, you can't do it. And I kept saying, well, you can, because I've measured it with a tape measure. So all we need to do is put one extra step on the vertical section and take one step off of the horizontal section of the stairs. So where the stairs came down like this and then kicked at an angle, what I wanted to do was this part, take one of the steps off and add it to this vertical part. So it meant that there was less stairs in the lounge. They just kept saying it can't be done, and I really couldn't wrap my head around why they couldn't see what I was saying. And I drew it out and said, look, if there's 14 or 15 steps, whatever it is, there's still going to be the same amount of steps, but you're just orientating them slightly different, and you're just going to move the hole that the stairs go into, you're going to move it back by 30 centimetres to gain that extra step. It sounds probably a bit complicated, but in my head it was so clear and so obvious, and I was getting quite frustrated with them because they couldn't see that. And we got to a point, I think, where in the end they just went, you know what, if that's what you want to do, fine, we'll build it, you know, that's how you want it, but you'll sign to say that that's how you want it. Which at that point it was a bit sort of, and the wife I think was, are you sure you're right? And I'm like, yeah, 100%, I know it's gonna work. So that's what he did. So at this point we've moved all the internal walls to accommodate obviously the bedrooms. We've moved the internal walls downstairs to make the kitchen bigger. We've reduced the size of the downstairs guest bathroom for that reason, and obviously reduced the aperture size for the stairs. So away it went, and as it's turned out, and you'll see in a later video when I do an internal video of the house, you'll see it works. We had a custom staircase made, and it's worked out perfectly. We've got one less stair in the lounge, which now means that we can have the TV in two places against two walls, and we've tried it in both places as well. So that's worked out well, but that was only possible because the developer really is very open to you making changes. The other change that we made, which was quite a dramatic one and not very common out here from what I've seen, is a garage. I again had the UK mentality, I want a garage. What is very common out here, where we are in our region, is a carport. Pretty much everybody has a carport to keep the sun off the car. I just wanted a garage because I felt that it's more useful. I think you can use it for storage, as you know, and you can do whatever you need to do, make stuff, turn it into a workshop or whatever, summer and winter. You don't have that option with a carport. Well, you do, but you're going to wrap up warm. So I really wanted the garage. That was another thing. So we then started looking at the garage, designing the garage. And the first problem we ran into was the cost of putting a roof, anything other than a flat roof, on this garage, a pitched roof to tie into the roof in the house to so it looked right. And we had lots of designs. We went backwards and forwards with the developer again, and it just didn't come across. It just didn't look right, and the cost didn't make a lot of sense. We were trying to make a loft space so that we can use it for storage to justify the cost, and it just wasn't working. So that was kind of a little frustrating again at the time. And then a good friend of ours, Grisha, thank you, he suggested putting a terrace on the top of the garage. instead of a pitched roof, which again, my initial thought was probably going to be twice the price of a pitched roof. Well, as it turned out, it was exactly the same cost. So that then made sense, because for the same price as a pitched roof, we then have a 12-metre long terrace. Couple that with the fact that all of the houses below us, because we're on a slight hill, so we're sort of here on the hill, and all of the houses below us are all single story, and we're higher up, we get to look from that terrace across to views. So we're probably one of the only houses on the estate that has lovely views all the way around to the surrounding hillsides. So that was another development and another thing that the developer hadn't done to that scale, because we also decided that we wanted a terrace on the back of the house. So our daughter's bedroom is on the front of the house, and she's got what we call a Juliet balcony. You can put a couple of chairs out there and a small table. So she looks out to the front of the property, and our bedroom is on the rear, looks across the back garden. And we wanted a terrace on there as well. So what we've ended up with is a wraparound terrace, effectively. And because of where the sun comes up in the morning and sets at night, it means that we have upstairs 2 terraces where we could be all day in the sunshine if we wanted to be, or out of the sunshine. So that just sort of all organically grew in that direction, and the size and everything perfectly. We then, and this is the child in me, started to explore the swimming pool, because this was an absolute must. That's happening. It wasn't going to be an option. We were having a swimming pool. I budgeted for it from the beginning. And part of that, once we decided that we were going to build a terrace, was I had a bit of an obsession with having a slide to go into the swimming pool at my age. And yeah, I'll say a bit of an obsession. Yeah, it really was. I absolutely adamant I wanted a slide. I was looking at all different designs of slide and this, that and the other. And we were originally going to put the swimming pool horizontally across the back of the house. And then, you know, because of the slide theory, you know, I thought, well, I can probably get up a good bit of speed there. So I'll probably need the the swimming pool lengthways to give me enough room to land in the swimming pool, not in the garden. So the orientation of the swimming pool changed. And the house progressed into a build that we have now today. The swimming pool wasn't built by the developer. That was a separate company. It was a company called Paradise Pools, who's a local company in Napa. I will give them a shout out. Mikhail is the owner, and nothing is too much trouble. When we first contacted him to talk about swimming pool, he picked us up. He drove us around to previous clients' houses, and it literally was, right, I'll go and show you this pool, let's go to this one, this is a saltwater pool, right, this is this shape, right, we'll go to another place now, I'll show you this one. And he literally spent all afternoon with us, without any commitment, without us saying we're going to have a pool or anything, just let me show you this one, come and talk to this guy, come and look at this pool room, come and look at it. And he just showed us swimming pool after swimming pool after swimming pool that he'd already built for other clients. And we met some of those clients, and they were all very happy with their pools, and all the pools look fantastic. And I just thought, you know what, that's lovely. You know, it's very rare that you get somebody that's confident in what they do and have a level of service where they're going to go and do that without any financial commitment from you at all. Normally, you know, normally you don't get that kind of service, and you certainly don't get it without some form of deposit or anything. But there was nothing. It was just, let me show you, let me show you, let me show you. So shout out to Paradise Pools, Mikhail, great guy, really helpful, and we ended up going backwards and forwards with him quite a lot to end up with the swimming pool that we've got. Lots of different options. He gave us lots of different choices, lots of different options, and I'll discuss the swimming pool in a different video. I've done some videos and mentioned the pool. You know, that it's not heated at the moment, but I'll go into detail about the pool and why we haven't heated it and why we may or we may not in a separate video. So that was kind of the start of everything, and that was October 21. And then we left, went back to England, and started corresponding with the developer via email. And friends of ours would come and do a video of the site and send it back to us. And we basically built the house from the UK. So we never actually saw the house at all until we came here. All we saw was in October 21 a scraped over piece of land. You know, if you can imagine a very overgrown site that had been probably left derelict for many, many years. The developer bought the piece of land and cleared it with a bulldozer. And we bought 4 bits of wood hammered in the ground, marking out the territory. So we had no concept, you know, we kind of knew what we were getting from some pictures, and the developer, you know, obviously sent us a CAD drawing of the house, you know, after we spec'd it and everything, and we kept making changes. There were constant changes all through this process, you know, moving windows, adjusting the width of the garage door, moving it to one side, changing the height of the windows, lots and lots and lots of things, changing the outdoor taps, changing the outdoor electric points, changing the indoor points, just constant changes backwards and forwards for months. But long and short of it is we built this house from the UK. We were in the UK when we were building it, and we didn't see it. And it wasn't until last year, last May, so May 23, that we actually came here and saw the house for the first time. And that was pretty cool. That was quite emotional, seeing something that you spent 18 months at that time, I suppose, developing in your mind, growing it, and to come and see it actually in the flesh was quite a thing, and also quite daunting, because what we came to was a very overgrown plot. You know, the back garden was 5 foot high in all sorts of green stuff. The front garden was just rubble, builder's mess and bricks and God knows what everywhere. There was no fence, there was no paths, there was no, you know, nicely blocked, you know, block paving around the outside of it or anything like that, because we hadn't spec'd that, to be fair. But there was literally nothing. It was like a house plonked in the middle of a rough plot. On top of that, out here, you buy a house, what they call in the grey, which means it's bare. It's nothing. I mean, you can have it finished. You can have the developer finish it to standard, but we knew we were going to change a lot of stuff, and we knew that we needed to be here to see that and make those decisions. So we had it in the grey, and in the grey here means no internal doors, no switches, no sockets, no plastered walls, no floors, no tile floors, nothing at all. We'd spec'd underfloor heating throughout the house, and that was done, but that was it. So it was just grey block and doorways, but without any trims, literally as bare can be. So that then was the start of obviously working out the interior, picking the colours, picking the doors, picking the door handles, picking the tiles for the floor, wallpaper, whether we were going to have it wallpapered or painted, you know, deciding the sockets. And once we were here, we moved a load of sockets. Even though we'd spent ages moving sockets and selecting where they went, we still, once we got here, moved sockets. We added sockets, we moved lights, so much that we changed. That led in obviously to getting a contractor to come in and do it, and that was a guy called Alexi, who remarkable, fantastic. Wasn't interested in the money, just wanted the job right. So at that point, the conflict, let's call it that, in Ukraine was in full swing, and Britain was going down the obsessive path of treating Russia like it's an evil place and trying to cut it off from the rest of the world. Obviously, we all know that the reverse has actually happened. It's not Russia that's been squashed by the sanctions, it's everybody else. But hey, at the time, that was the path they were going on. So we didn't know how we were going to get money here to even pay him without going back to the UK and physically walking it through customs. So we said that to him, and we said, look, we don't know how we're going to be able to pay you, because, you know, we're not sure how we can move this money at the time. And he just straight away said, oh, don't worry about that, that's fine. And we said, well, it might be a year before we return to the UK and can bring the money. And he said, yeah, that's fine. So he literally started work and paid his subcontractors to do the work, bought all of the materials out of his own pocket. He took us to various shops in Napa for us to pick tiles, for us to pick doors. So he drove us about in at his own expense and time, and again, nothing was too much trouble. So the two main people that we've dealt with have been amazing. Nothing was too much trouble. Everything's been so simple, so straightforward, and they've both been so helpful. It's been really refreshing, really nice. So we agreed with Alexei to do that, and that started that process. We also decided, once we spec'd the garage and we decided we're having a terrace on it, the wife was very keen to have a sauna. I wasn't, because I'm not from a sauna society, shall we say. Sauna isn't really a thing in the UK. Out here, different culture, completely different. It is like everybody has one, you know, really, everybody has one. Obviously there are exceptions to that, people in flats maybe, but they'll travel to special, you know, banyas to have a sauna and go and jump in a lake. And I didn't understand that, and I had no interest in it, and sitting in a sauna at 80 or 90 degrees wasn't my idea of fun. I'm a swimming pool guy. But the wife really wanted a sauna, and I was like, oh God, where are we? No. So we kept changing the design of the garage, which altered the design of the terrace on the side of the house and the back of the house, and the railings. And we went backwards and forwards again, and then eventually we've ended up with effectively 4.5 meters in the back end of the garage that is now internal walled, which again will come in another video, ready to have an outdoor shower room and sauna. So we've got a window in, and that's the next phase, or certainly one of the next projects will be to build the sauna. A lovely aspect from the sauna, it looks out into the garden across the swimming pool, so it'll be nice. Subsequent to that, I've used the sauna several times and I'm absolutely hooked. So in the winter, best thing in the world. And we were actually in a sauna in January and then jumping into our friend's swimming pool. So we were coming out of their sauna and jumping into their swimming pool was at 11 degrees, which was nice actually, I've got to say. So looking forward to doing that, but the sauna's not built yet, but it's summer now, so we won't be using it until November anyway, so we've got plenty of time for that. So that was kind of the build. That was the basics for where we started. There were lots more individual choices made about the terraces and doors, which way doors opened, how big the door was on the garage, for example. In height, that was a consideration, because we're built on a slope. The garage is actually at the left of the property as you look at it, which means it has to be taller because it's on a slope. So there were so many considerations, and so many, not problems, but again, considerations that we had to take, and we didn't get them all right. We got 95% of them right. Would we change a couple of things? Probably, if we had our time again. But nothing I can actually think of now, because as we've gone along, we've altered stuff and corrected it anyway. So we've ended up with a property that we are super comfortable with and super happy with. It hasn't all been plain sailing. Certain things have changed, and certainly the current situation hasn't helped. It's been difficult, but it hasn't been impossible. There's always a way. Again, it's probably a conversation for another video. But we are here. We've been here now, well, since May last year, so 11 months. The pool was finished in October last year, I think. So we're looking forward to using the pool all year this year, rather than just the latter part of last year. We've levelled the garden. We've done so much in the garden. In 10 months, I'm looking back at videos that I took, because I pretty much filmed and took pictures of every step, just because I wanted to document it and look back on it. And I look back at those videos now and some of those earlier pictures of when we first got it, of what we had and what we've got now, and it just doesn't seem possible what we've done. But with the help of the Russian tradesmen, it's all come together. Whilst on Russian tradesmen, you have to, I don't say shop around, but you have to be aware that you may need to say exactly what you want rather than them tell you what you need, if that makes sense. So for example, once we've got a roof terrace, we're going to put a slide on the roof terrace into the swimming pool, no problem. Then when we got here, that actually wasn't going to be very practical, because to access the slide, everybody would have to come into the house, up the stairs, through our bedroom, out onto our balcony, and then down the slide, which is okay once, but then when they've been in the swimming pool and they come out on the grass and bring in grass and up, just, I don't need to explain that. You can imagine that's just going to be a non-starter. So we then decided we needed a staircase. So we got in the first company that we were recommended. A couple of guys came round, very nice, very polite. And I said, I want to put the staircase here at the back of the house, where it is now. You've probably seen it in one of the videos. And they said, can't be done, which kind of threw me. And I was, why? And they said, because there's not enough height to get the stairs in. Okay, all right. So it can't just be 2 flights of stairs. It's going to need a platform to split it. And, so I started doing the calculations of what could be done. And they just kept insisting that the staircase needed to be a straight run up the side of the garage, from one end to the other, finishing in the corner of the terrace above the garage at the front of the house. So that would mean that to get to the swimming pool from the bedroom, you would have to walk round along the top of the garage to the terrace stairs, down the flight of stairs, all the way down the side of the garage to then get to the swimming pool, and vice versa. And it just didn't make any sense to me. Just didn't look like a workable idea. So they just looked at a couple of other options and just said, look, that's all that's possible. We can't do what you're asking us to do. So away they went. So that was sort of, oh, okay, have I got this wrong? So I sat down and calculated again. The wife, I think, at this point is thinking, I'm not sure this guy knows exactly what he's doing. But I got the tape measure out, I calculated the height, I calculated how many steps we needed, and I knew it would fit. I knew it wouldn't fit just as a straight run of stairs. I knew I needed to put some platforms in between the 2 flights of stairs as it turned around the corner. But I knew I measured it, it was going to work. So we got the second company in, and they said the same as the first company. Nope, won't work, can't be done. Oh, so at this point, I'm really thinking, geez, I'm going to have to build this thing myself. So that was a bit disheartening, and it went on for probably best part of 2 weeks while we were waiting for people to come back to us with quotes and this, that, and the other. And the staircases, like I say, that they came up with just weren't going to work. They would work, but they weren't going to suit what we wanted. And having a flight of stairs up the side of the garage just wasn't what I wanted. I just thought it would ruin the terrace in the way that it operated, in the way that you used it, because if you've got an entrance to a staircase on the top of your terrace, you can't use that corner of the terrace. So that was right at the front of the house, and I just thought, well, we're going to want to sit here in the evening and look at the sunset. We're not going to want to be in front of the stairs. So that was kind of disheartening. But then somebody suggested this third guy, and he came round, and I at this point was a bit sort of dejected, thinking I'm going to get the same response. And he initially said the same thing, stairs upside the garage, and I said, no, look, I want to put stairs round here. And I got out my drawing on the paper that I'd drawn, and I said, look, down here, here, and down the side of the garage. And he sort of looked at it, took the paper, stood, looked at it again, and went, yeah, that'll work, I think. And then got his tape measure up, and away he went. And 10 minutes later, he came back and went, yep, we can do that. And I was like, oh, thank God. So we ended up, obviously, with the staircase. But it showed me that you have got to sometimes tell the traders what you want, the trades what you want, because they're used to doing things their way, obviously. And if they've never done anything outside of what they normally do, then they probably don't know that they can. There's an old saying, you don't know what you don't know. So certainly the trades out here, you do need to be aware of that. You need to obviously be involved in whatever the situation is, whether it's plumbing or carpentry or fabrication or whatever. We had quite a few instances like that where we needed to be quite hands-on with what we actually wanted as specification. We wanted this changed and that changed. So that then obviously left us in a position where we had the outside terrace working, we had the garden to sort out and lots of other things. And that's probably where I'm going to end this live, because there's so much more that I need to go into in depth. There's so many more questions I think that I'm going to need to answer, and I think today wanted to get a live out initially just to mention Martin and his family, and I want to do that again. Please go and visit Martin's YouTube channel, which is Russian Travels. Please look at his situation, see what's happening to him and his family, and if you can help in any way, that would be great. And also just wanted to try a live, my first live, and just sort of give people an idea of how we arrived here. I've got to go into the actual travelling of getting here, because that was interesting. Because of sanctions, obviously there are no direct flights. So that's, something else I can go in. And I've got a list of questions from people on YouTube, on my channel, that they've asked questions that I want to get into as well and answer specifically, and in a bit more depth. So thanks for watching. I'm going to cut it off there, like I say, and if you have got any specific questions, please ask, and let's see if I can make lives a bit more regular, and just probably go through question by question and answer to give some more detail into what people are actually interested in, rather than me just sitting and waffling like I have done. But first live, and I've told you the reasons why, so hopefully that's good for you, and thanks for watching the replay to this, and I'll see you again soon. Thanks a lot.